Hi, my name is Jason Runyon. Today I'll be showing you how to make animated videos of chemical structures from PDB files using the 3D animation software Blender.
And the goal of our video today is to create really cool animations of PDB files in a 3D scene like the one shown here. In one of my previous videos I showed you how to create stunning images and molecular structures from PDB files using the Atomic Blender add-on tool. And today we're going to use that same scene to make interactive 3D animations. So first let's load our Blender file. If you don't have access to this file, I provided a link in my original video. Go check it out. You can download the blend file and we can go ahead and start here in creating our animation. And just starting off this scene, we have in our scene collection here a UV sphere with a background wrapped. I'm going to go ahead and hide that. And then we have our water.pdb molecule that we've loaded as a wire mesh frame. So when I start off this animation, what I really want to do is tee up the camera so that it's actually directly facing the center of the water molecule here. So I want to select the camera, and then what I'm going to do is type GZ-2, enter, and then RX15, enter. And then I'm going to select the view mode and then go to cameras and then active camera. And I'm just going to type RX and then manually rotate this so that we get the water molecule really centered in the middle of the camera frame there. Now what I want to do is position the sun so that's directly over the water molecule so that when we render an animation, we don't get any shadows in the background which will really interfere with the scene. So I'm just going to drag select the sun, and I'm going to type GX-4, enter, and then GY-1, enter. And I can see that the sun's really positioned over the water molecule. So next what I'm going to do is highlight the sphere that we have our background wrapped on. I'm going to unhide that. And I want to really scale this UV sphere down so we really get the background image with the maximum resolution there with a wrapped image. So just left click select and then click S for scale and then just manually scale that down. And we're going to bring it to the back of the camera here. So that really decreases the size of this background image and gives us the maximum resolution there. Next what I want to do is really optimize the background wrap on the UV sphere. So if you haven't already done that, go ahead and load the image as the texture onto the UV sphere. And just as a refresher, we can do that by clicking on the Material Properties node, going to Shading, and then we'll go to the Nodes screen. And if you haven't done it, you can Shift-A, add Image Texture, go to Texture here, and then Image Texture. That'll create this new node that you collect the color alpha, color to base color, and then alpha to alpha. And then you can open the file of the background. And so after that background's loaded, just go to UV editing, and you see the UV is actually wrapped on the background image itself. What I want to do is now scale that down so that we get a little bit higher resolution and highlight some of the bright spots on this image. So I'm going to scale this to about 1/4 of the size with the S button and then drag that down. And then with all this selected, type G, and then just grab this and put it in the top right corner of the screen here. And then you're going to scale this just a little bit more, so it's really about 1/4 of the image, and then grab it with the G, and then just put it in the top right hand corner there, so that it's really highlighting that yellow color. So now if I go back to layout mode, and then look at the rendering mode here, you can see that the yellow now encompasses most of the UV sphere. So now I want to take a look at the scene itself by going to View, Cameras, and then Active Camera. And I want to select the UV sphere in the background, left click, and then type RZ, and I'm just going to rotate this UV sphere so I get a lot of the yellow colors in this left hand corner here. Great. So now we get a lot of highlighted yellow colors. We can see that the image is really reflecting off of the hydrogen atoms, and you can see there's some reflection through the oxygen atom itself. Now that we have the scene set up the way we want, the background resolution image is really optimized. Now we can work on really animating this scene so we can get a 3D look at this molecule through a rotation motion. So what I want to do is zoom out, and I'm going to go to wire mode, and I'm going to hide this UV sphere so I can really work on the scene itself. What I want to do is have the camera rotate 360 degrees around the water molecule and have that as the scene of our animation. So first what I'm going to do is type Shift-A, and then just go to empty, and then I want to add an empty plane axis here. Once that plane axis is added, let's type S and scale that up a bit, and then type GZ, and just grab this and make sure that the axis is in the center of the water molecule, and then left click. So next what I'm going to do is unselect that, select first the camera, and then the shift button, and then left click, I'm going to select the central axis, and then I'm going to type Control P. And then I'm going to put object here, set parent to object. So what happens is you see now a line is connecting this vertex of the camera directly to the central point of the axis. If I select everything and just select the empty and then type RZ, now the camera is locked to the central axis and the camera can fully rotate around in a 360-degree manner. So let's take a look at that in the view mode. If I go to View, Cameras, and then Active Camera, type RZ, we can see that the water molecule stays in the central frame of this camera and it rotates freely around the camera scene. Okay, now after we have our empty selected, now we can work on animating the scene. So next what I want to do is go to the Animation tab up top, select that, and then I want to left click select the empty object. After empty object selected, while we're in frame 1 here, I want to actually type I, and what I want to do is select insert a keyframe for location, rotation, and scale. And what that's going to do is set up new parameters for XYZ coordinates for this empty for frame 1. Next what I do is move the timeline down to about 90. And now I'm in frame 90. So what I'm going to do now is actually rotate this. So I want the camera on the opposite side of the molecule. So I want to type RZ 180. Now while the camera's on the opposite side of the water molecule, I'm going to type I on my keypad, do another location rotation keyframe. I'm just going to do that one more time where I move the timeline from 90 to about frame 180. And then again type RZ 180. And then type I, location, rotation, scale. Now if I go back to the beginning here and hit play, you can see the camera actually rotates around the water molecule and we get this nice 3D scene here. And you can see there's actually the water molecule comes off the screen a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that really quick. I'm just going to go to Layout and then just go to View, Camera, Active Camera, and what I'm going to do is just GX that and just bring that over just a hair. And we can actually go to the pane here, hit play. And just make sure it stays inside the camera. Perfect, so the water doesn't actually come out. So now then I'm going to go back to the animation mode. And then I just want to tee this up a little bit. So our frame starts at 1 and ends at frame 250 here. I want to make that a little bit shorter. I want to end at about frame 200. And just go back to the beginning. So what's going to happen, again, looking at our camera view here, as I hit play, the water molecule is going to rotate inside the camera frame and end at about 200 and have a nice pause at the end. Now that we have our timeline set up, we're really ready to go ahead and start animating this scene. So next what I'm going to do is go to the output options, and I'm going to change the resolution to about 5% resolution. And then I'm going to go down. You want to make sure you're going from frame 1 to 200. We want our step to be about 4. Next what we're going to do is choose a file where we want the output to go. So I'm just going to put this directly to the desktop here. And then we want to change the file format to AVI JPEG. And then our quality can be about 90%. Since we have all these parameters in, I'm just going to go to Render and then Render Animation. So I'm going to go ahead and take a pause here while this is rendering and then come back when this is complete. Okay, our animation finished rendering, and this is really the quality of video that we get from this the render. And really what you can see from this low resolution animation is that it basically has all the aspects that we want from this animation, and we can continue with a higher resolution imaging. So from there you can kind of adjust the parameters as you want, and then once you have everything set the way you'd like it, you can go and kind of modify the parameters to get the really high resolution image. So I wouldn't really recommend going over about 20% of these resolution parameters for standard PCs. This is really all dependent on what type of PC you have. I'm going to move the steps down to 1 here. And then again, keep all the parameters the same here for our, make sure that's AVI JPEG, RGB, and then quality about 90%. And I'm just going to go to Render and then Render Animation. So you can see that now the render comes at a much higher resolution, and it's going to render a number of these images, compile them into animation, and then we'll get a video in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break and show you the video after this is completed rendering. Okay, great. Our animation finished rendering, and this is really the quality of animation that we get. You get a really nice graphic. We have a universe in the background. You get this really cool 3D scene. We get a lot of reflections in the hydrogen atoms, and again in the atom you can really see the transparency of the background. And so that's the end of this tutorial. Please like my video, and if you found this helpful, please leave a comment in the comment section. Thanks again.